We absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I was having.
Of course, everyone else. Just have some party. It was a chance. It's different there. No, I expected that else to do. I think things are
He's on physical. Okay, sorry, no, yes. Yeah. Welcome to the City Council meeting of the Clinton City Council. We are convened in the council chambers at City Hall, February 24th, 2026. Welcome to the City Council meeting of the Clinton City Council. We are convened. That was beautiful. Right. All right, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation by Councilmember Jennifer Christensen. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful for the opportunity we have to gather tonight as a community and as a city council. And we are grateful to live in this city, in this community, and in this nation. We thank thee for those who work on our behalf to help us govern or manage our city and protect us. And we ask for guidance as we pursue the business of tonight, that we might make wise choices. And we say this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, we will begin. Well, first of all, my name is Marie Doherty. I'm the mayor, and we'll begin with a roll call of the city council. Those in person, starting with Councilmember Christensen, and then we'll have Councilmember Searle at the end, who is joining us online. He can call. Jennifer Christensen.
Adam Larson, Spencer Irving, Chris Danson.
James Searle.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, tonight we have something special. As at the open of our meeting, we have a special recognition designation of Captain Powers. And we'll turn the time over to Chief Polson to deliver that recognition.
Madam Mayor, thank you. City council members, city manager, I come before you again to honor and recognize the employees of our great city and our great fire department. So we have another distinguished honor that I'd like to present. I will present this very timely, Madam Mayor, and not take up too much of your time, because I know the time is valuable. Captain Powers and the duty crew, and Amy and Nick, if you'll come up. Then we'll have Janae too. She wanted to speak. Janae wanted to speak today and I told her if we have time, we'll let her say a few words. Madam Mayor, it is my honor and privilege to present to you today Captain Powers and acknowledge the sacrifice and dedication in achieving his supervisory fire officer designation requirement. What does this mean? The supervising fire officer designation is part of the Utah Fire Officer Professional Development System, administered by the Utah Commission to Fire Officer Professionalism Development. This supervisory fire officer designation is considered a professional recognition, not a certification. Core requirements: firefighter 1 and 2, hazmat material awareness and ops, inspector 1, fire instructor, fire officer 1, NIMS 300, 700, 703, and 800. Must have a 2-year degree before you can even apply for this. So he's got the education, the experience as a captain, and then all of his extra effort to get this. Please join me in recognizing Captain Powers on his achievement of being designated a supervisory fire officer. This distinction reflects his hard work, professional dedication, and commitment to continual growth and service to our community. Captain Powers constantly advances his knowledge, leadership, and skills to better serve those who rely on him. We are proud of his accomplishment and grateful for the example he sets within our department and city. Captain Powers. We're gonna have his wife, Janae, pin this on him. And then did you want to say a few words? Oh. You can put it back there if you want. Move this back. And then we'll get pictures, mayor, council, and that concludes our presentation.
Thank you.
If you want. Okay, we'll get some pictures.
Get a picture
Mayor,
of your
council,
team members
Okay,
first, and then we can do one of them.
team, come up here, we'll get a picture. Yeah. Okay, mayor, council, if you'd like a picture.
Deputy Chief Sheriff. We'll go on the other side. Yes. You're right at the front and center, one on either side.
Everybody good?
Got our captain, got Lover in here.
Sign these.
Congratulations.
Thank you to our fire department. That was fantastic. We always appreciate seeing you here. All right. Well, we will now open our public input period. This is a time for members of the public to address the council on any topic that is relevant to the city council, and we will allow you up to 3 minutes to make your presentation. Do we have anybody who is wanting? Okay, we have one member of the audience. Come on down, Hannah Colby.
Thank you for that intro. Appreciate that.
State your name and city of residence.
Few facts about Spencer perspective. Yes, Hannah Clevey, Clinton. I was in the work session with you guys and I just wanted to, in case you guys weren't aware, point out HB 181, which is a home-based food service law that says that you can operate a direct-to-sale location from your home, ranch, farmer's market. So when you guys are considering that law, you might just want to make sure that it doesn't kind of infringe on HB 181. So you actually can run almost like a semi-restaurant style. You can sell plates, you can have people in your home and serve them, and you can have like a small storefront where folks can come in and buy things. I'm not a legal scholar. I do not do well reading this stuff, but it's under the definitions, it's 4-5A-102. Just in case you don't want to take those at that. And then regarding parking vehicles behind a fence in the backyard. We recently looked into this. It's very costly. The gravel was about $3,000. And then the plastic that you have to put under the gravel, which does leach plastics into the water, something to be aware of, has to be replaced every 5 to 7 years. So it is a cost. What we would like to do is just during the winter when the parking restrictions are there, because we do have a couple off-road mini trucks and we have a 35-foot motorhome, we keep our lawn immaculate. And it's funny because if we put the motorhome on the grass under the motorhome doesn't grow, it actually stays green and retains more moisture. So it is something to consider. We are going to pave it just because the aesthetics, we like that. Or not pave it, put the gravel down. But we are concerned about the leaching of the plastics into the water it has to be an industrialized plastic. You cannot go to Sam's Club and buy like a gardening plastic because within 1 year you'll see weeds pop through it. And the law does say it has to be weedless. There could be no weeds or it has to be torn up and redone. So it is rather costly. And I am of the impression that if I'm temporarily, maybe we can look into that too, maybe while winter restrictions are in place, people can put a vehicle in the back, something like that. But yes, I would like to see less government in my backyard. We do keep the front of our yard, nice. We take pride in our home and our backyard as well. We don't have weeds, we don't have fire hazards or anything like that. So, it is something to consider. And I know you guys talked about inoperable vehicles like a trailer, but some of us do have motor homes, and we do keep those disconnected in the winter, batteries on tenders in the garage and stuff like that. So the fire hazard issue is not really an issue for us, but I could see it getting out of control on like a farm or something like that. We all have seen those properties and that wouldn't apply to us, but the plastics leaching into our high water table concern me greatly. So that's something I also just wanted to throw out there.
Thank you,
Yes.
Hannah. We really appreciate that comment. And thanks for attending our work session. I think this was a really good example of what we were envisioning is for people to be able to attend the work session and then come give public comment to us on what they heard. So that was fantastic. I appreciate that. Are there any other members of the audience who'd like to speak? Greg Allen, come on down.
Greg Allen from Clinton. I too attended the work session. Thank you very much. I talked to Council Member Christensen about this after the work session. I'm a dog lover, not a cat lover. Sorry. I've owned a dog in the past, fenced backyard, have all the rules, leash on and kind of thing there. And even now when I bike on the asphalt path, get dog walkers there who have to hold back their dog because they're not people friendly. And my concern is with Heritage Park, you have one dog free zone where families and kids can go and enjoy it. But the prospects of the dog getting irate or upset on the fly, or family small kids. So as you consider that particular ordinance or what to do with that park, I'm a dog lover. I'd love to have it, but also looking at the other side of things, there's a possibility that we have families who will no longer attend that park because of the fear of flipping out on the dogs. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. And what will be cool is if we do bring forward the discussion for that, for a potential change to that ordinance, we would open that up to a public hearing. And so people could share it and we could always adjust and adapt if we decide not to do it or something. So excellent. Appreciate that feedback. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak to us today? Okay, seeing no more comment, we'll continue with our agenda. The first item of business is resolution 08-26 RAP tax committee appointments. And so you'll see here that I have reappointed Terry Tremay, Kathy Osberg, and Randy Halley. They were the members who only got to serve 1 year because we had to create a staggered type system when we first created this committee. And so I've reappointed them. They all expressed interest in continuing since they've only had a little bit under their belt. And then we have 2 vacancies on the RAP tax committee. And so we had applicants who threw their hat into the ring, and I was able to narrow those down to these 2, Robert Miller and Christy Davis, to fill those vacant seats. So Robert would fill the seat that ends December 31st, 2026. And Christy would fill the seat that ends December 31st, 2027. And I think we have Robert here tonight. And so would you like to come up? Or actually, whether you'd like to or not, come on up.
I'll at least say hi.
Come say hi, introduce yourself, Robert. It was very kind of you to come tonight and so say your name and a little bit about yourself.
Robert Miller. I live here in Clinton. I've lived here in 3 years in June. I moved here from Los Angeles, California. So
And tell them a little bit about your interest in parks.
I have 2 little kids, a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old, and we go to Powerline Park all the time. We live right down there. Or I just want to help foster a community with parks that people love to go to. So yeah.
You have background using skate
Yeah,
parks. to
so
water.
I helped 5 cities in California get skate parks built, and then I've helped 3 cities here in Utah help skate parks get built. So,
Kind of
and I work with construction as well, so. Yeah.
very good. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Have a seat. That's wonderful. Christy really wanted to be here. She was very stressed out. She's a hockey coach and has done all kinds of rec, has lived in Clinton for 10 years and used all the different rec programs here and loves recreation. And she's into street hockey right now with her whole family. They all do it together. Anyway, really neat people. And so those are my 2 new appointments. And I wonder, does the council have any kind of motion they would like to make to open any discussion? Or do you have questions for Mr. Miller while he's here? You wanna make a motion?
Sure, that's what I make a motion that we adopt resolution 0826, ratifying these appointments to and reappointments to the Clinton City Rep Tax Committee.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Danson. Is there a second?
I will second that.
And a second by Councilmember Christensen. So then that opens our discussion on this resolution, and Councilmember Danson, you have the floor if you'd like it.
No, that's what I think that these folks have done, that were being reappointed, have done a wonderful job, and look forward to seeing them do their stuff. And I'm looking forward to seeing about skate parks and Robert's ideas as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any other comments or discussion from the council?
Mine is for Robert on cats versus dogs.
I have 2 cats.
Oh my God.
Thank you. I have one friend.
For the benefit of those in the room who were not in the work session, that's where this stemmed from, is everyone learned that Councilmember Arby loves cats, and there's a bit of a dust up, so. Yeah. And he's never gonna live it down, and now could we please for the rest of 2026 have that question on our agenda? Any other comments from the council? Okay, all right. Oh, yes, Councilmember Lars.
Thank you for being interested in serving. I think it's great that we're getting people who have vested interest in this and bring expertise that is going to be very helpful. So we appreciate you getting involved.
I agree, yeah, thank you so much, Councilmember. All right, if that's the end of the discussion, then we will take a vote. This is a roll call vote because it's a resolution. So we will start with council. Oh, the question before us is, should the council adopt resolution 08-26 and appoint or reappoint these individuals? Councilmember Christensen.
Yes.
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 Councilmember
Yes.
Searle. Perfect. That passes unanimously, and we will move on to item number 2. So we have Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District, and we have what is your title? Executive Director or Manager? Executive Director Preston Lee here to give us a presentation on recycling and green waste options, including some potential grants. And so Preston, you have the floor.
Excellent. While she brings up our presentation, I just want to say, Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you for this opportunity. I own 1 dog and 1 cat. So if you ever need individual parking, you know, it's called. I have brought Jesse Simonson. He is our landfill manager, and has spent 23 years with the district. So he has vast experience operating with operations. So this should go pretty quick. There's only 10 slides. I didn't go into a whole lot of depth or history. So if you'll click to the next slide. So we're a special service district. We are owned and operated by the 15 cities that reside in our district, and this includes Morgan and Morgan City. Bountiful has opted out of at the 11th hour of our district, and so that's how our 15 cities are made up. We process about 350,000 tons of waste annually, with 81 employees between the 3 facilities, count transfer station. So we have a 19-member administrative control board. Each city has a representative, so that's the 15. And then Davis County has all 3 commissioners on it, and then Morgan County has 1 representative from their board, their county board. And that brings us to the 19th. So you click on to the next one. This kind of gives you a little bit of a 80,000 foot view of our facilities. We do own and operate a landfill and a material recovery facility. Oh, look at that, Trevor. You're on. Love it. Material recovery facility is where we process our recycling from your residents, well, soon to be resident. I'm sorry, where we will process your recycling if you so go that. We also do the transfer station at the same place, so that's kind of actually raised a little bit of a concern. So if a resident follows their recycling vehicle, it goes to the same place as their garbage truck. And so a lot of rumors have floated around that, hey, these guys aren't really recycling, but we split the floor. Stuff on the north side gets put into transfer trucks. Stuff on the south side gets actually processed through our $17 million MRF that separates out the recycling stuff. We run a green waste composting facility, and that's the other component of this presentation that I'm going to get into is the curbside organics recycling that is offered to residential waste. And then, of course, Jesse's landfill that you can see on that picture. So this is a little bit of a future graph. So right now, you can see where we're at in 2026. We're hovering right around, operational costs of, around $8 million. When that facility closes, when the landfill closes, reaches capacity, there's going to be a big increase in operational costs because we'll then have to transfer all of the waste that goes into there. And you can see on the left side of that facility on that slide, that's a long ways to go. So we have to drive all the way down I-15 to Santaquin, get off, head west to Alberta, turn right and head another 10 miles. So it takes about an hour and a half for our trucks. Each one of our drivers takes 2 trips a day. They start about 2 in the morning. So it's quite the process. So
just want to give you that kind of a heads up that we are trying to manage for the future and not just going to blindly walk into a landfill closure. So there's some diversion incentives, and I don't know if you've really been educated on what this is. So when we first rolled out the recycling, we rolled it out as a stick. You are going to implement curbside recycling. We backed off of that, and we've offered this incentive program. So how that works is we take the tonnage that you are diverting out of our transfer trucks, and we're going to give you a percentage off of that $8 household fee that matches the diversion incentive that you are accustomed to. So with curbside commingled recycling, it's pretty light. I mean, you can imagine you're talking empty milk cartons, cereal boxes, Amazon boxes. It's pretty light stuff. So there isn't a whole lot. We're seeing about 10%, and I think you'll see this helps. So we're seeing about 10%, a little bit less across the district with those blue cans. But if you put on a green can, I mean, it is significant. We're getting upwards of 25-30% in some of those cities. So that's where you actually start seeing a really bona fide benefit of that incentive program. So there are some caveats. I don't want to point out the space that's limited, but so
We all noticed.
we're excited for this opportunity. So we have a couple of grants. We're here to offer some free money. The one is the EPA SWIPR grant. This is about the organics. We are one of 17 facilities across the nation that was awarded this grant out of 330 applicants. In our region 8 of EPA, we are one of 2. The other one is in North Dakota. So absolutely, this is an honor and a great achievement for us to acquire this. And it helps because it allows us to roll out organic recycling into 3 new cities. And the mayor was dubious enough to contact me and say, hey, we want to be a part of this. So in our application, we had Clearfield and Farmington as the 2 cities that we were going to roll out. It took a while for EPA to really run this. So we cannot use the money on an existing program. So Clearfield already rolled theirs out, Farmington's rolling theirs out in March. So they lose out a little bit on this. But again, one door closes, another one opens. And so with the 3 cities, which is Clinton, West Bountiful, and South Weber, their combined household totals are roughly the same as Farmington and Clearfield. So that's how we were able to get the EPA to sign on to this. So what we do is we would basically pay for the entire cost of the cans. We expect 50% of your city to sign up. But this is a great program because it's opt-out. So we expect you to roll the cans out to people. If people say, hey, I have a landscaper that takes away my grass, but I don't need that can. Fantastic, take that can away. We're good. And there is a $2 charge for Jesse to process all that material once it hits the landfill, because composting, screening, all of the processes. That $2 is only if they keep the can and they opt into that participating program. So it's pretty good. It's pretty easy, and it's all feel good. The material that would go into it's heavy, so green waste is heavy, and it gets picked up. The curbside gets picked up every week. That material would go into a landfill, and it would automatically start producing methane gas. It deteriorates pretty quickly and produces this methane gas. If it's going into a place that collects it, you're a little bit better off, but not all of those gas collection systems are very efficient. There's a lot of gas that is missed. So this is this is a feel good. Like, to give you a perspective, in winter, we're bringing in about 400 tons into our transfer station. And this tonnage is only coming from residential households. In the winter, that jumps up to 700 tons, and that is all about grass clippings, people putting grass clipping inside their garbage can. That's how much added waste that we see during that process. So it's a win-win. Love it. And then the other exciting news is that part of our incentive program, instead of the stick, the carrot, we actually partnered up with the Recycling Partnership. They gave us a grant to help take some of the steam from cities for rolling out some curbside programs. So it's not as lucrative, it's $15 for every cart, but there's a lot more carts because typically this is a citywide program that we like. I mean, we still give you the option to let residents opt out, so you can have an opt-out, true opt-out program. But what we'd like you to do is convert that as soon as the rollout is over to anybody that moves in or any new, that they automatically get a can, a recycling can. So a little bit of what we also help with is signage on both programs. So we're going to give you the education, we're going to give you the signage. This is a little bit of an example of the signage that we mail out to your residents so that they can expect the cans that are just showing up blind. We also handle a little bit of education on the cans. So if it's a recycling can, we offer a blue recycling sticker that tells them what's appropriate. Recycling can be confusing, and we don't want it to be confusing. And then if it's a green waste, we also have the similar green waste education. I think that's it. So I'm open if you guys want to fire out questions. I'll let Jesse answer.
And maybe before we ask any questions of you, I can add a little bit from my perspective so that the council has some more context. Thank you very much, Preston, for that very helpful presentation. So this is something that's just cropped up for us in the past couple of weeks. So I've had some council members express interest, but I kind of just made an executive decision and said, I have an opportunity in front of me right now, and I am near certain that the council will go for this because this is, as you can see, Clinton is the last holdout here of the county. But it was important for me to find out if there was a way for us to do the opt-out programs, because that's the greatest feedback I've received from the residents is they don't want to be forced into something that will absolutely add to their monthly utility bill in some way or another. And so if they have an opt-out option, then they feel more of that freedom. But Preston has experienced this across the county with various cities that most people do end up appreciating the opportunity to recycle or have green waste options. So Trevor and I were able to kind of attack this from not only this grant side with Wasatch Integrated as the waste management district, but also on the side of our hauler. So that's the other piece of this puzzle is we use Robinson Waste as our hauler. And it was important for us to sit down with them and say, are you guys willing to do an opt-out style program if we launch this? And it turns out they are willing. And so that is very cool for us. So we have an option in front of us for the council to consider. Do we want to now implement recycling, which would be this year? Because that $15 per can grant money is available to us now. And then 2027 green waste, if we are able to get this Swiffer grant that he talked about, which would pay 100% of the costs for our green waste cans, but couldn't be implemented until 2027. And and you don't have to decide this tonight, it's not necessarily up for debate as a decision-making agenda item, but we would need to create a resolution.
Pretty much for both. We want to make sure that the way that the city council is behind these programs, and so we'd like to see a resolution authorizing both. The green waste is a little bit trickier. So in our code, we have it set that the cities that want to participate will pass a resolution requesting permission from the waste board, from our administrative control board. That way the district, so for instance, Layton, if Layton actually rolled out a green waste program with their size of their city, it would overwhelm our facilities and we wouldn't be able to continue. One thing I truly want to make sure that I do is honor the word of the council to your residents. And so if you're telling your residents that we're going to be recycling organics, I do not want to be throwing away organics when it gets to the landfill. And if we cannot process that to our compost pad, and maybe I need to explain a little bit about what that is, then we have to throw it away. So the compost pad is an aerated static pile. So it's connected to fans. These fans are connected to pipes and they blow oxygen or air up into the windrows. And so what that does is it creates an aerobic condition for the bugs and the microbes to process that organics material. So it speeds that up and it also controls odors. And since we do operate within a residential subdivision, it's critical that we can control those odors. So if we just composted old fashioned on the dirt, the process typically goes anaerobic and you get a lot more odors coming out of that process. So we need to make sure that there's enough pad to process all the material. So we asked you to pass a resolution and then the district will bring that resolution up at an administrative control board meeting and then they will ask staff whether or not we can process that material, and if so, then we'd actually go ahead and grant it. Now, it's a little bit different because you're a part of this SWIPR grant, and so I don't want to go in and change policy. It's just easier if you guys just pass that resolution and ask, even though it's going to be almost a guarantee that you'd be, I don't want to speak for the board, but I can't imagine that they'd go against an EPA SWIPR grant. So, we have to do what we put in that application. And so, yeah, it's just a formality, if you will.
And Krista, maybe you can tell them the level of certainty that you have about whether we would be actually end up receiving that grant. You mentioned earlier today in the meeting that I was at that you always, until you have the paperwork in your hand, you're not 100%.
So we've received a notification from the EPA. We are working with an EPA representative. We meet on a monthly basis just to make sure that everything is going well. They did ask us to revise our application, so we did all that. They said that you cannot move forward until you receive the letter of award, and the letter of award has a bunch of CNCs attached to it, so that it kind of lays out what that process is. That letter was supposed to come in March. It has now been delayed till April, and I just hope that I'm 90% sure that we're going to get this material or this award, but until I get that award letter in my hand, I can't say for sure.
That's okay. So and this is just for the green waste plan, the SWIFR grant.
The partnership, the other one, sorry to interrupt, madam. The partnership has already said that the $15.
The
recycling partnership, yeah.
Okay, so let's open this up to questions from the council. So Councilmember Denson.
That's what, so my question is, so the grant, the partnership grant is $15 per can. Is that, like anybody can get like 2 cans or 3 cans? Does it pay for $15 per can?
$15 per can that you roll.
Okay.
So it would not cover if you drop a can off and they hold it for 30 days and turn it back in. So it's at that final who kept the cans type of thing.
Okay, so if the resident wanted to, they could request, I need 2 cans.
Yep.
You drop off 2 cans.
Yeah.
And then they keep both cans, that's what.
Yeah, they would get the $15 per can.
And if you don't mind, I'm gonna turn some time to Trevor so he can explain a little bit on the funding for the remainder of the cost of that can, because they're about $60 per can. And so Clinton would need to kind of front the cost. which would be better than just piling it onto the residents all at the front end stage, right? So go ahead, Trevor.
Yes, there's a few options that we can do. We can purchase lump sum with the cans, if we have the available funding. And we look at our garbage fund, we do have fund balance that will allow for us to do that. We estimate about 7,100 residents that could qualify potentially for this. And then it will be an opt-out. And so typically we buy for that group, and then we would just retain the ones that we had to return or opted out as just additional stock. So we would buy those. Another option was the hauler can purchase the carts, and then as the user fees get paid, we can pay off those carts over a certain number of years. There is a interest charge that comes with that. And so since we have the available funding, our recommendation would be just to move forward with the reserve account. It still leaves a healthy amount in the reserve account. So it wouldn't be depleting it entirely. And then we would just assess the fee based on operational replacement that we would need, and then impact to our employees at that point.
Okay, and then the other thing you should know is, so he mentioned a $2 fee from Wasatch Integrated on per household on the green waste. That would be in addition to the fee that Robinson Waste would charge for hauling it, right? And so theirs is like, what was it, $4.78 or something?
Yeah.
So, something like that. And then the recycling does not have a fee associated with it from Wasatch Integrated, but it would have a fee from the hauler, Robinson Waste. So we would pass those fees through to our residents on that monthly utility bill, including some of that little extra for administration and those cans and things.
Yeah, that fee is also dependent on the take rate. So if 50% of our residents continue with green waste, then that fee from Robinson Waste is set at a certain rate. If that take rate is more than that, then the fee will decrease. So it just depends on how many sign up for the program, will be that variable. And then, so we'll add the total cost for that operation plus any additional operational costs that are on our side. That's sometimes through our utility billing department, through our public works department, and then any replacement costs for future cans. Typically, we don't charge our residents for the full can price when they sign up for the new utilities, and so we'd have to account for future replacement and kind of all of those factors that go into those enterprise funds, right? So Corey and I and our public works department will work with those once we get the solid numbers from all of the areas.
Excellent. More questions from the council? Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you. Okay, context. I was the young mother many years ago in Mountain Green, driving my truck full of recyclables down to the landfill until I couldn't get the little cupboard and it blew all over. And anyway, I care a lot about recycling. There are two things I've been told that I would love for you to clarify. First of all, is it true that if there is one item incorrect in a garbage can, that the whole garbage can has to go to the garbage versus recycling? That's my first question.
Okay, answer. No, that's not true. Our facility was actually built as a mixed waste processor. What that means is we process garbage through it. So it is very robust. And, I don't know if you remember, if you were around when we first rolled this out in 2020, that was the big selling point, is that we were going to process everybody's garbage and we didn't need to roll out recycling. So it's really robust. So if there's contamination in it, it's built to handle, some sort of a large rock, if you will, or a brick, or something that would pile of dirt if somebody really was, not happy with us and filled it with dirt. We could process that. There is no problem. That one truck is not. So let's say somebody leaves their can open on a day like today and it gets rained on, and that material is wet. When it gets to our process, or when it gets into that garbage truck that takes it to our process, it's gonna get other things wet. When it gets to us, we either pull it out if it's too soiled, and then, you know, it just goes on to the transfer station, which it would have ended up there anyway if they would have put it in the garbage can. So there is no impact whatsoever to our process. It doesn't contaminate more, it doesn't ruin the whole truckload. We are very efficient at targeting the clean recyclables. And when I say clean, you don't really have to wash out all of that. You just throw in the peanut butter jar. That's expected in industries, so.
And so you partially answered my second question. When I first moved to Clinton, I was told that it was a mixed-use facility and that recycling wasn't necessary. So what changed?
So when we first opened that facility up, we had two offtake partners, one of which we still have, but their appetite for consumption is much smaller than what we had planned. That is the cement kiln that's located up in Morgan County. So we produce a material that is called a refuse derived fuel, and it offsets the coal that they burn in their kilns. So when they decreased how much, so from 19,000 tons to 5,000 tons, the amount that we were saving by not putting that material in a truck and driving it all the way to a landfill decreased dramatically. But really what killed this is the anaerobic digesters that are located at WRR, Wasatch Resource Recovery, down in North Salt Lake, was supposed to take all of our green waste. So we have a 2-inch trommel, and if somebody put grass clippings in their garbage can, we were gonna process that waste and it was gonna drop out all of this glorious green waste. Well, the problem is it also drops out all of the glass, all of the dirt, all of the Easter eggs, all of the, you know, anything you can imagine that's smaller than 2 inches. And so when we took that material down, yeah, it was 70% grass or organics, but it was 30% contaminated with grit that their processes couldn't handle. So they said, no, we're not going to do it. You have to either put in a $5 million upgrade to process it further, or stop bringing it to us. Once we lost those two offset, we couldn't offset the maintenance. There is so much maintenance when we're processing waste. All of the belts get ripped, all of the damage to the optical sorters and glass and stuff that's inside those pieces of equipment. It just made it too costly. So in 2022, about November, we changed. We had 2 shifts running all that garbage. We switched down to 1, ripped all the employees and you know, started processing clean recycling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
More questions?
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Dents?
I'm so sorry. Can I just,
Yeah.
I want to ensure full disclosure on that partnership. They'll pay about 90% of that $15 upfront right away. And then we, Wasatch Integrated, have to do some reporting for a year. And they want a little bit of, you know, substance to get us to file those reports. So once we file the reports, then your other 10% will come 1 year after the rollout. Sorry.
Councilmember Dents.
So I'm not sure if Preston or if this is for more of Trevor, but the dump fees that we've been talking about, I just want to make sure that, because I'm like trying to figure out like, okay, we got the green cans, we have the blue cans, is that $4.78 for either one of those dump fees, or is it just for recycling? Is it just for green waste?
There's the collection fee and then there's the dump fee. And so those are 2 separate things. The collection fee is charged by the hauler, and then the district will charge the other fee, right? And so that's where those differentiators will come. I think it's important to know that it's not necessarily going to be $4 for our residents or $6 for our residents. We've got to assess kind of our operational impact into that number as well. Because you could look at the same factors for our current waste collection fee that we charge as a city. And there's an overhead portion of that with the administration from our.
So they will assess those fees to Clinton City, and Clinton City will turn around and figure out the right fee to assess to the residents.
We get a bill from them frequently and just pay that from the garbage fund.
Just to clarify though, we charge currently at $8.20 for your households to process their garbage. That already includes the processing for the curbside recycling, not the organics, but the curbside recycling. So you wouldn't see, if you just roll that out program, you would see no difference in our billing.
Okay. So just be all new, it's just a hard.
And in fact, you said that if we achieve a certain percentage of diversion of our waste, of our goods, then there is a potential for reduction in the household use.
Yeah, any diversion that you have, if you roll out the program, that you don't have to hit or achieve a certain diversion. I was just showing you where most of the cities hit, that's the 25% or 8% on just the curbside. So there is no, you have to hit this much and then you'll get it. You're already into it, so you get 1 or 2 or 3%. That is on rolling, an annual rolling average, so you wouldn't really see a big, the full diversion until after, 11 months, 12 months processing.
More questions?
I have one more question.
Councilman Christensen.
Thank you. This question might not be for you, but where styrofoam and glass cannot be placed in the curbside bins, if we did enter into an agreement, would there be an opportunity that we could have recycling bins where residents could bring styrofoam and glass?
Styrofoam, you can put that in a recycling bin.
Oh, you can now?
Yeah, so if you look at that, well, it doesn't really actually say, but yeah, it doesn't say no recycling. It's supposed to be in the plastics. Under the, yeah, it doesn't really have a styrofoam.
No, years ago styrofoam, and a lot of that's changed, but styrofoam was not allowed.
So the reason that, so if it was in Salt Lake, you couldn't put in styrofoam, you couldn't put in plastic bags, film, or those little polypropylene or yogurt containers, because they don't have outlets. They don't have anywhere for that material to go. We do, we do sort that out and it becomes RDF. And so, yeah, it's allowed. Glass is a little bit different. So Momentum Recycling is the glass processor. They're down in Salt Lake. And they do offer some curbside programs, but it's mostly around the cities that are close to Salt Lake because it's a heavy product. And transportation costs are increasing. So we do offer a curbside recycling drop off for glass at the landfill. But I do know that some cities have contacted Momentum on their own and was able to have a glass drop off at their city public works. So I gave an option.
Other questions?
I have one.
Okay, Councilmember Larson.
The administrative fees, those would also not be charged to our residents who opted out.
Correct. Yes, it's only those with the program. Yeah, not.
Yeah. That's
Councilmember Danson.
All right. I just love this way. So how frequently would the recycling be picked up? Like, is this, because I saw on the EPA thing that's like supposed to be something that's done weekly for green waste. Would it be the same for the recycling, or is that gonna be like bi-weekly? Okay, just want to everybody.
Oh, tell them about the option for using the waste can during the winter.
Oh, yeah, so on that organics option, recycling. We understand that you want to mow the lawn when it's summer, and so during the winter time, we allow your residents to convert that to a garbage can and use it as garbage.
So in February.
No.
So usually it's the
Spring that we're having.
after the last full week in November, you can start using that until the first full week in March.
We have a lot of people who have second cans and they might end up not needing those second
Right.
cans. And that's the other reason why the administrative fees come into play, why Trevor's saying it might not be exact numbers. Transferred just from Wasatch or from Robinson to us. We also have to take into consideration what is the whole dynamic due to our waste, or to our solid waste fund and its sustainability, right? So.
Madam Mayor, can I
Yes.
add one little thing?
Yeah.
Some of your residents already have curbside recycling. It's through a program run by ACE, the disposal. You might see your ACE disposal trucks driving around in your neighborhoods. I have contacted the owner of ACE and I've told them that you guys are rolling out these programs. And so they will be picking up those cans when you are rolling out your new cans. So there shouldn't be, if you have residents that come in and say, hey, I already recycle, I don't need this program. They're going to be picking those cans up and no longer offering that option.
And I think they charge $17 a month.
Wow.
That's what the a person I talked to recently said she was paying for.
I used to use them when I lived in Morgan. Well, I still live in Morgan, but I used to use them before we rolled out our recycling and I was paying $50.
Okay, yeah. Any other questions? All right, so I'll tell you, so my intent then is, this was an informational presentation and you don't need to act on it tonight because my intent is to move forward and bring forward these resolutions for consideration. I told you I kind of acted on this thinking I have received enough feedback from residents over the past 5 years that I feel very confident in saying that we've achieved a majority of residents who would support these kinds of programs, especially if there's an opt-out option. And I suspected that I would have the support on the council. However, you have the right tonight if you want, because ultimately this is the decision of the full council, not mine. Someone could make a motion to just kill this topic entirely, if you'd like. But if not, then that's my intention, is to proceed and then bring forward these resolutions that he's talking about, at which point we could make a motion, have debate, we could put information out to the public for them to come give comment if they'd like. So.
And the anticipation on budget, we will just build it into the next fiscal year's budget.
For the recycling.
For the recycling line for green waste if it's rolling out in.
Oh, 2027 isn't it? Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
You're
So
right.
we'll just build in those costs that are associated with that and any fee structure to accompany the new budget rather than do anything at this point here.
Trevor, we can send you a couple of copies of the different resolutions just to help.
Emotions.
Mayor, make the motion that we, I move that we bring this business before the council at a future date, for further discussion and consideration on new resolutions.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Larson. Is there a second on that?
I second that.
And a second from Councilmember Danson. This doesn't require a roll call, so, well, first of all, let me give you the floor, Councilmember Larson, for any discussion.
I feel great about discussing it later. I think we need to understand at least a range of what the cost will be depending on adoption, because the people who may be interested now don't know how much it's going to cost. And we don't want sticker shock when worst case scenario, 25% of our people adopt instead of a price that we've given associated with a 50% adoption rate. So that's really my biggest
You
concern.
want to see numbers, yeah. Any further discussion on that motion? Councilmember Christensen?
And I want to save our planet.
That is a legitimate comment.
No, I just wanted to say I've been looking for this for a long time. And it will be very nice not to have to haul my own tin cans, and I will not have any more flashbacks of recycling flying out of my truck driving down the canyon.
You were very dedicated. I was.
Yeah, no,
Yes, Councilmember Danson.
and that's what I just want to say thank you as well, because this would, I've had a resident reach out to me already about this and been talking with her. We've been trying to plan like, oh, maybe once it gets warmer, we'll actually go out, talk to people, try to get people interested. And so it'd be nice to have this information, say, hey, we are heading that direction. So thank you.
Yeah. I was excited to tell all of you because I knew you had that discussion. I didn't have any of this information, and now all of a sudden, the last 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm on it. For sure, every night.
Perfect time.
Yeah, it's very fun. Okay, any further comments? Well, then we will just have a voice vote on that. The question before us is, should we proceed and talk about this at a future meeting, including bringing forward resolutions for the council's consideration? And if you're in favor, everyone say aye.
Aye.
Wonderful, and that passes unanimously. I guess I should say, is there a nay? I didn't hear. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you so much, and Preston, thank you for coming. Jesse, thank you for coming. Do you need to say something? You came all this way. I did notice that. I did notice that you referred to it as Jesse's landfill, and so.
I do live right there and I get to overlook it 24/7.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's good to meet you and hopefully we can work in the future.
It's our pleasure. We appreciate it. Have a great night, guys. All right, thank you to the council for that. That was helpful, and we'll move along to item number 3, which is a public hearing associated with ordinance 26-02, amendments to Title II of the Clinton City Code. These are updates to our rules for Clinton's governing officials, the descriptions of our roles and responsibilities. So before we open the public hearing on this, I would like to go through some things. We talked about this at our work session, but we have limited time at our work sessions, and so I realized that I kind of wanted to share a little bit more background information, so I hope that's okay. So the first part of this is it up on the screen?
Yes.
Do you have can you scroll to see there you go. So you'll see here that for those in the audience or online that there are just some alterations to the language regarding the functions of the council and the functions of the mayor, and then down below the city manager. None of these functions, none of these amendments changes our form of government. And so for those who are interested or in the room, I'd like to describe a little bit about our form of government. And that includes telling you some of the other forms of government that are available in state code. So there's the council mayor form of government. Sometimes people call that the strong mayor form of government, not to imply that other forms have weak mayors, but to imply that that's more your traditional, like what you'd see on the federal level, where there's a legislative branch of government and an executive branch of government, and the mayor is running that executive branch, and the mayor has veto power over the legislative branch. And that's what happens in the council mayor form of government. Those branches live kind of separately, even though they interact a lot and help each other. But the councils in those forms of government have their own, they pick from among themselves their own chair, and the mayor is not chairing those meetings. So we do not have that form of government. You see that one in Salt Lake, Provo, Ogden, yeah. But in all of our Davis County cities, we have something different. But before I tell you that one, I want to go to the other end of the spectrum. So years ago, they had something called the council manager form of government. And that was kind of like a corporate model where the council was like a board of directors, and then the city manager was the CEO of the city and would run the day-to-day operations. And in that form of government, the mayor had a vote on the council. And the mayor, so for legislative purposes, but the mayor, for executive purposes, was only a figurehead. Somebody who could go do ribbon cuttings or whatever, right? But the city manager was the CEO of the city. So that form of government is now defunct, is no longer in state code, and there are only a small handful of cities that had it grandfathered in and operate under that model. Okay, so then that brings us to what we have and what many cities in Utah have, and what all the cities in Davis County have, which is a 6-member council form of government. And in this form, the mayor is the chair of the council. The mayor is a member of the council. That's why it's a 6-member council. The mayor chairs the council, but the mayor doesn't get a vote. So there's a little bit of a holding back of legislative power for the mayor. But in this form of government, the mayor by state code is the CEO of the city. And so that mayor has more executive and by code administrative authority. And the way state code lays it out is that the mayor is the person who manages all the employees and has all the executive and administrative authority. But then it allows in code for the city council, who actually holds all of the cards really, to decide if they want to maneuver those powers around. And so in many cities, what they've done is they've decided to still hire a city manager, but it's not the same way as that old council manager form where the manager's the CEO. Instead, they hire the manager as the chief administrative officer, and that person runs the day-to-day operations and manages the employees for the mayor, so the mayor doesn't do that anymore. And so that's what Clinton has, and many of our cities in Utah do that. There are some 6-member council cities in Utah where they don't hire city managers and the mayor does still just run the day-to-day operations. So it just depends on the city, and it's kind of that hybrid form and has lots of flexibility depending on what the council wants. So at the end of the day, the city council is able to kind of control things, and that's how it differs from that council mayor form of government. In the council mayor one, you could never have the city council take away the executive or administrative powers from the mayor. They couldn't do that. But in a 6-member council form of government, they have flexibility. So our council could say, you know what, we want to run public works ourselves. Do not do that. But they could, right? They could take upon themselves, administrative powers or whatever. So at the end of the day, the city council is the main governing body. But the way it's put in state code is start off with the council being the legislative authority, have the mayor be the executive authority and administrative, and then go from there. So in Clinton, what we've done is we've hired a city manager to run our day-to-day operations, and that's Trevor. And he's our chief administrative officer. And so the mayor is still the CEO of the city, but the mayor doesn't just get into the weeds and tell staff what to do on a day-to-day basis. That's Trevor's job. But we would work hand in hand together and create that vision. And I would be able to help from that executive side to create the vision of the city council and execute that with Trevor. And so I wanted to open up our wording in our code in Clinton so that it was a little clearer, because over my time as an elected official, I have had commentary from people, whether it's staff members or members of the public, who I've started to realize people didn't understand what kind of government we had, what that form was, and what those roles were. And so I would have people say, oh, the mayor of Clinton's just a figurehead. And I'm like, nope, the mayor's not a figurehead. The mayor's the CEO of the city and has some executive, or has the executive authority, but just ends up executing that a lot through the city manager. Or I would have people, you could run the risk of having it go too far the other way, where you could have someone thinking that the mayor is supposed to be hiring and firing all of the staff, but the mayor isn't, right? The city manager is supposed to take on that role. And so I thought it would be helpful for us to just add just a little bit of clarifying language in here so that there isn't a question. And that's what you see before you. And so I guess the other thing is that I've had people say things like, oh, the mayor is the boss of the council members. And that's also not true. So I am not their boss. That's not the right way to look at it. It's more that the mayor is the chair of the council. So it's a form of leadership. It's a facilitating position. But the people of Clinton are the boss of this council. And so that's something important to know. But together, the 6-member council is the ultimate authority of the city. And so we wanted to ensure that in this language, that's also made clear. So you'll see here that we just wanted to add a line in that says the city council is the legislative body of the municipality and exercises the legislative powers and duties and functions. Our city council has not chosen to take upon themselves executive and administrative power. They could, but they have not done that. So in our code, it clarifies that they're the legislative body. And then going down, it says that the mayor shall be the chair. Oh, I've removed some of the gendered pronoun language just so that it's not all a male. Because now
Yeah, we were out.
email. We're out of compliance, it was supposed to be a man for 2 months. So that was something helpful. And then you'll see under the duties and powers of the mayor, I just added this clarifying line here, the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city and is the person on behalf of the city council to whom the city manager reports. So that was an awesome conversation that Trevor and I were able to have to say, how can we land this in a nice space that clarifies the role of the mayor, but also kind of gives a little shout out to the fact that if the mayor is trying to go rogue and do things that really the rest of the council wouldn't approve of, that's a little reminder that the city council can alter your power, mayor, if you're going rogue, because they still retain in state code the ultimate authority to, maneuver executive and administrative power. And so that's just a little a shout out there to say, if I am trying to act as the chief executive officer, I need to keep in mind that I need to be executing the will of the whole council, not just my own ideas as a mayor. And that's protective of Trevor for his position, because if he's reporting to me, then that way, if I were to say, you should fire all of the fire department, then, which I would never do, by the way, I love them. But if I were to say something insane like that, then he could say, he doesn't have to say, oh, I have to obey the mayor because I report to the mayor. He could say, oh, is that what you're doing on behalf of the council? Mayor and the council would say, heavens no, that's insane. And then they would say, maybe we should consider taking away the power of this insane mayor. So, okay. So it gives options and checks and balances is what I'm trying to tell you. So that's that language. It says in here, and then if you'll scroll down, Lisa, or whoever's scrolling, then it says the city manager is the chief administrative officer whose powers, duties, and functions shall be subject to the control of the legislative body, but the city manager shall report to the mayor pursuant to Utah code. And so that just kind of helps us have that little reporting function on the day-to-day so we can run smoothly, but reminds us all that the ultimate power lies with the legislative body. So, all right, well, I guess we can ask for questions at the end, because let me just move down here. For most of this, you guys, is just cleaning up a lot of the goofy key and chairman and stuff like that, and some typos. And then if you get down to this part about the planning commission. So we added in a portion here that says the city shall publish a notice of all vacant seats at expiring terms on the city's website for at least 14 days, including an application for interested residents. And then the mayor is going to interview those finalists with the assistance of the city manager or the manager's designee. And then the mayor can appoint those positions. So previously there wasn't really any good explanation of a process there. And so we kind of had whatever Wild West happening, the mayor would just appoint people. This puts in some protection for the city council's advice and consent authority, so that they have a certain expectation of what process will be followed to look at these applicants and to give them some kind of an interview or something. And then also that their names are going to be published in their agenda in advance, so that they could call those people and actually interview them if they wanted to. So these are changes we talked about in our work session, and everybody was fine. You'll notice I changed that language to say with the assistance of the city manager's designee. We also changed this to say that the terms of office would expire at the end of February. And then down here, go up a little to 7. Yeah, the procedure, the planning commission shall during its first meeting in March elect a chair. And so that's the one thing I wasn't completely clear on after I left that meeting. Did you want me to do the March? So you'll have to answer this after I'm done talking. Because originally Peter said he was thinking of changing it to December, thinking that their terms were all starting in January. But then we talked about, oh, if we're gonna have people's terms expire in February, maybe you wouldn't want to elect your chair until you had all your new members in place in March. So I did do that, but if you want me to change that, we can do that. We can change it. And then I deleted the sentence that you guys wanted me to delete there. And then in item number 9, it says the planning commission shall meet at least once a month or as designated by the commission in their bylaws. I think that's it. So if you don't have any, well, maybe I'll open the public hearing first and see if we have any commentary on this, and then we can have you ask questions after that. So, because that's our purpose tonight, is to have a public hearing, because this is an ordinance change, and that's our new rule, is to have a public hearing. So it's 8:15 p.m. and we'll open the public hearing on ordinance 2602 with these amendments to Title II of our Clinton City Code. If you'd like to speak on this topic, it needs to be on this topic, no other topic, and you can come up and have 3 minutes and state your name and what city you reside in. And that's exactly what I expected. And so, seeing no interest from the public, then we will close that public hearing at also 8:15 and 41 seconds. And I'll turn this to the city council. Do you have any clarifying questions first, or a motion that you'd like to make? Yes, Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you. I think we should add to the ordinance, the people of Clinton are the boss of this council. No, just kidding. No, I wanted to say, I appreciate the efforts that you have made to tighten up the language and clarify the role of the city council and bring our ordinance in alignment with state code. And so I think this is a great thing to do. That's awesome.
Just a question there.
Yeah.
This way, so we're not voting on this tonight because of the public hearing, or do we want to?
So I'll clarify that. Thank you for that question, Councilmember. So in our rules of procedure that we just passed at our last meeting, our rules state that anytime we have an ordinance now, that we're gonna have a public hearing. We want the public to be able to weigh in and have an opportunity to speak if we are changing their laws. And I love that. And so my goal is to, and we're always gonna send these types of ordinance changes through a work session before we come here, so we can kind of hash out in a little bit more informal setting. We did that, and because I'm still new and still trying to learn how to follow my own rules that I came up with, my intent was to put our public hearing on last meeting's city council agenda the same day that we talked about it in a work session, so that we could just get feedback from the public and then move forward and have today's meeting be an opportunity to vote. But I forgot to do that. And so now you have 2 options before you. You can either make a motion to send this to the future meeting where we would then vote on it, which is great. I apologize. Let me back up. I didn't explain the part where in our rules, it says not only are you supposed to have a public hearing for an ordinance, but you're not supposed to vote on it the same night as the public hearing. I forgot to say that part. And so what I meant to do is have us see the public hearing last time and then vote on it today. So I have no problem with you. This is not like an urgent thing. So if you would like, you can make a motion to have us put this on the agenda for next time in order to vote for it. However, I think it's also a reasonable possibility that if you would like to make a motion to suspend the rules, that is a reasonable motion that is used by city councils and policy-making bodies all over the United States. It's an option that's allowed in Robert's rules. You can make a motion to suspend the rules to say we're gonna still vote on it tonight, even though it's the same night that we had the public hearing, because there was no commentary. So it's clearly an issue where the public does not feel impassioned, they don't really care, they think it's reasonable, it's a normal like technical changes. So that's an option for you, but you would have to make a motion to suspend the rules in order to do that. And then after we vote on the motion to suspend the rules, then we would take the vote on it. So those are your 2 options.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think another matter of clarification on procedure, because this deals with the powers and duties of the mayor and the city council. The mayor does have an opportunity to vote this item as well.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Very special. Councilmember Arby.
Mayor, like to make a motion that we suspend the rules. So that we can vote to approve the amendments,
Okay.
since there's no public comment.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Arby to suspend the rules.
I second that.
And I have a second from Councilmember Larson. And this one is not debatable, but it does require a 2/3 vote in order to pass. And so the question before us is, do we suspend the rules temporarily to allow a vote on the same night as a public hearing for this ordinance? All right, and so we can actually just do a voice vote on this, and we'll see if we have a 2/3 vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And so now we have the option for actually having another motion if you would like to vote on this ordinance or discuss it or debate it.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Denson.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 2602 and amendments to Title II of the Clinton City Code updates to the rules of our governing officials.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Danson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, a second from Councilmember Arby. And so this motion is debatable. And so Councilmember Danson, you have the floor.
Awesome. That's what I think that this is very important for us because it does, like you said, Mayor, clarify some roles and duties in there. I really actually like that we reference in our code about city council that we can actually look and see what our powers and duties are, because before we didn't have that. So I really think that this is a great document that we can keep going.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any other comments from the council or debate or discussion? No, that's pretty good. Were there any comments on the addition of the word March for the planning commission? Was that your intent to have them get their chair in March?
Yes.
Okay, I was a little bit worried about that. I can totally remember. Okay, perfect. All right, then seeing none, we will take a vote. So the question before us is, do we approve ordinance 26-02, amendments to Title II of the Clinton City Code? And this is an ordinance, so it requires a roll call vote, and the mayor will be casting a vote on this because it does affect the roles and powers and duties of the mayor. So we'll start with Councilmember Christensen and continue on the path.
Yes.
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 And Councilmember,
Yes.
you got it. That passes unanimously. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of the helpful input on that. And thank you for listening to me explain everything. I'm a habitual explainer. All right, thank you. We will now move to item number 4 of our business. This is a Parks Open House. We don't necessarily have a presentation on this one, but the presentation is really all this information that was in your agenda packet. We held an open house back in January regarding our parks here in Clinton. And so we had some conceptuals up here for the public to look at that had to do with Pond Park and a potential dog park, maybe at Shoestring Park or Kestrel. And we were looking at different versions of things. A pump track and maybe jump track at Pond Park and maybe some pickleball courts. People were wanting to give feedback on the community gardens. It was a bunch of different things. And so we have included in this agenda packet as much of the written feedback as possible. We also held a Q&A that night and received verbal feedback from many members. It actually was very well attended and had a lot of great feedback from many members of our community giving verbal feedback. We had several members of the city council there to hear that feedback with their own ears. But this is an accumulation of the written feedback. And so some of the main categories, hang on a second, let me get my paper.
And I didn't think that Brooke sent that to me, is that what you're looking for?
The general plan one, yeah.
If you'll go back.
Do you want to pull that up? Which one?
Just go back to,
Are you the scroller, Amy?
you're right, underneath that one.
Zoom out. Yes.
So while she's figuring that out, so we had some interesting feedback, and a lot of it said, with regard to the dog park, we'll start there. We've had members of our staff say, well, maybe we should have a dog park, because we have had feedback from the residents over the years that that could be a cool addition to our community. We had I was actually surprised at how many people expressed some reluctance over that, and maybe thought that you know, the communities that have townhomes or apartments in them would be more inclined to use a dog park. And actually, some of our townhome communities that have been built they actually are building dog parks for their HOAs to go with them. And so it was interesting to hear the feedback on that, and I was surprised at how many people said, do we really need a dog park? So I'm sure that's one of those where you just are gonna get a wide variety of feedback, depending on who you're talking to. But what I felt like we did hear a lot of is that if we are going to do a dog park, people wanted it to be done well. They wanted it to be high functioning, well regulated. I mean, we're talking all kinds of feedback like limiting the hours of use, regular police checks, access to water for both humans and dogs, free cleanup supplies, shade and obstacle courses, ensuring that the ground surface was something nice like wood chips or you know, but not just weeds and mud, and or even charging people to use it. Like there was all kinds of feedback that centered on the heavier side of regulation. So that was really interesting to me. And then we also had a lot of people talk about how they wanted to keep the community garden. They didn't want anything to injure the community garden, which is on the south end of town. And so we did hear a very loud voice about that. They don't want that taken away to be used in some other purpose. We also heard people, now moving on to the pond park, we heard people express more than I expected, reluctance toward like the bike path and the jump track for that. Some people said they liked the idea of the pump track if it were small and could be incorporated into the trail system that's already there, as more like a fun little addition to the trail, but not something heavy that would bring a lot of traffic to them or a lot of potential for needing police presence. We did have some people who said they thought it was a cool idea, but they wanted the skate park and the pump track to go together if we could find a way to do that at a park. And so they didn't necessarily care where it was, but thought that those two could go well together. We also had people talking about creating more of a nature vibe at Pond Park and wanting just more beautification there of our for our extra plots of land that are there, and save money and not do something that's a more intensive amenity. Anyway, it's fascinating to go through the feedback and see people say yes dog park, no dog park, yes pump track, no pump track, you know. And so this is going to be a heavy responsibility for the city council to take in all the feedback and say, what vision do we have for these things? So you've had the chance to go through all of this feedback. I just gave a brief kind of outlook to it. Or overlook to it. I would say that, you know, we did have that conversation in the work session prior to this meeting about potentially allowing people to walk their dogs at Heritage Park. Some people did say that to me that night, and at other times, could we allow people to walk their dogs in the parks rather than have a dog park, right? Or something like that. So there's a bunch of factors to weigh for you guys. What I would recommend for you to do tonight is to send this topic to a work session, but in doing so, to make that motion and then actually give in creating your reason why you think it should be discussed at a work session, give us some thoughts as to what are your concerns, like what are you weighing, and what are you thinking about as you take in all this feedback, so that when we go to the work session, we have a foundation to work on, so that we can bring the council the most, complete information for you to analyze. So, yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
I'd like to make a motion that we bring this topic to a
work session.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Arby to postpone this topic for a work session. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And a second by Councilmember Christensen. All right, so that said, the first offering of the floor is to Councilmember Arby, and do you have any discussion?
No, not specifically tonight, other than to give you my general thoughts, looking over all the notes and the summary you just gave it is interesting to see kind of how it's almost split, right? Like it's talk to this person and they don't want this and this person does want this. And so it is gonna be kind of a large discussion and I do like how you kind of painted a picture on a direction, like we need to kind of come up with a vision and what we do want to see rather than just like somebody once told me they wanted a dog park, so let's do that somewhere. And so I think it'll be good to have it in the work session so that we can all kind of get together and share thoughts and feedback that we've gotten from the community. So I'm excited for this topic.
Okay, awesome.
The end.
Oh, they finally got this up. Can I interject and see? We also, in case those of you who weren't here or didn't get a chance to see, there's some survey results from our general plan meetings that we've had already. People have given feedback on the parks and open space topic. So you'll see people wanting, you know, community pool. That everybody wants a pool, but that's gonna be rough. That's it extends.
Madam Mayor, City Rec Center, that could be lots of things.
Yes, that and it absolutely could. Yeah, the term rec center, yeah, because it could be like an athletic facility or whatever, so. Okay, so yeah, you have those before you to be looking at while you're having your discussion today. So are there any other council members who want to enter into discussion? Yeah, Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you. I'm just feeling punchy, so, you know, I know that I don't remember every wants a cat park. But alas, I do want to.
Sorry to interrupt. Cat don't need putters.
Councilor Arby, you were out of order here.
Defending cats.
I'm sorry.
Me.
You're
One, two.
out of order. Bring us back together.
No, we did receive an email from a community member who pointed out the lack of parks on the southwest area of town. And I have a question about that because I do know that, the proposed development that's on the northwest area, the proposed development. So I think it's important, to keep in mind the whole city, and I would like to have more discussion on that southwest area because I'm not as familiar with it geographically.
Excellent.
Mayor,
Yeah, Councilmember Larson.
just one thought that I had that I remember early on in a public hearing, this was last year sometime, someone really liked the idea of like a nature center. And I was like, well, that would take a long time to create. We don't really have a built-in place for that. But when someone suggested that Pond Park be reserved for kind of a quiet, peaceful place, I thought that may be the closest thing we have to something like that. So it got me thinking about, we're lucky and blessed to have a good handful of spaces. And I think it feels appropriate to me. We have enough places to do all the things that our community wants, but it makes sense to me to group them kind of so that, you know, skate park, pump track, jump track. Same types of families are gonna use those types of things, and people who want peace and quiet can go to Pond Park and walk around the pond and be a little bit in a more peaceful setting, especially that one because it's the only park we have that's not on a main road. And so that one makes a lot of sense to me. So just as we go and discuss these things, I think I'm all for, you know, within reason, whatever we could fit into our city parks. But I think it makes sense to not try to have every park be everything for everybody.
That's good feedback. Thank you. More comments from the council?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if I could.
Councilmember Arby.
Out of time out.
Well, you're not, I mean,
No.
the others didn't indicate, technically by our rules, the others should have a chance to talk if they want, but.
Sorry. Two council member dancing.
Yeah, okay, you're gonna have to hold on, Councilmember Arby, Councilmember Denson.
Yeah, that's what, I know that from our discussions from that open house that, people had diverse opinions about things. But I think one thing that did come out of it is that people want just something to happen. I know that when I went and discussed things with people before the open house, just to let them know about it. Even one in this room, it's just like, you know what, it's just been sitting there, we have tons of weeds, let's just do something. I don't care if you do, if you decide pump park or if you decide put grass, just put something in there. And so I think that's the thing that once we take it to the work session, that, yeah, let's make those discussions, but let's try to work towards this pretty quickly, so that way people feel like that we're actually accomplishing something and not just being like, oh, we're gonna debate this and just keep pushing it out and further out that way.
Good feedback. Councilmember Irby?
No, I'm waiting for
Oh,
Councilmember.
that's true. Councilmember Searle, homesick. Are you awake? Do you have any commentary?
It's like, ow.
I put her to sleep. That's the truth. I'm gonna have to just make it a chair decision right now because he's stuck somewhere. Okay, Councilmember Arby, go ahead.
Well, now the anticipation, what I was saying. No, I.
Oh, he says no comment, he texted me.
No, I just agree with what you guys have been saying. I think it's important to know, one thing that I really liked about Clinton is we do have so many parks and they're all diverse and have their thing, right? We can go through each of them and say like, this is this park and this is this park. So part of our vision planning and talking about that is thinking of those kind of things also, and keeping in mind useful uses for them, right? Sometimes we could just have a park that's a retention pond and we just use it because it's there. But I like the idea of having a discussion of, people have said they kind of want this, like where would that fit and what can we do? So I really am excited about this kind of discussion, so.
Does the council want to have, okay, do you want to have some more like rough concept designs to come forward to you? I don't want to pay for like fully drawn concept designs at a work session, if that makes sense, but do you want to see more design options like thought out, or do you want to just talk about more conceptuals, like just ideas?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Speaking for me, I think like having parks there, they've developed and designed so many parks and all that already. So just having them in the room with the discussion is, for me, gonna be plenty for the initial discussions.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you. I would like to have an opportunity to discuss how we prioritize which areas we're working on. And also if there's a way that we can phase them so that we're not waiting to completely have all of the funding or all of the equipment or everything in place before we add something to an area, if there's a way we can phase things.
Our funding is incredibly limited. And so if we want to do larger projects, we're gonna have to be talking about bonding for those, so. Okay, that's helpful. Do you have feedback on the dog park concept at all? Like, are you still interested in discussing it? Do you feel like you're losing? Right. Councilmember Larson.
I really felt like in the original feedback that this was something our community really wanted, but I'm with you that I was surprised a little bit. I would even venture to say more than half of the people were at best indifferent towards it, if not opposed to it. And so I think it feels like an easy thing to do, relatively speaking, from a cost perspective and, the space. But I also think there's merit to the people who really want a dog park or the people who don't have the yards to have a dog that can run. And so the fact that these developments with townhomes in them are putting in dog parks, I think that does meet some of that need. And so I don't think we have to do anything too large or extreme. And I feel like it's less of a priority for me now. I know that the RAP committee was really anxious to do it. And I think partially because it was a quick win for the committee and for the city. But I think as we get into the conversations, if we can use that money for some other things, to me, it's less important now than it was before that public meeting.
Thank you, I appreciate that feedback. The question before us tonight, just to clarify, is not whether we have a dog park or not, but I asked that because I wanna know what information to bring to the work session, right? Or is there some skepticism there? Should we bring other options? Should we, and what should we be entertaining at that work session? So that's helpful feedback, yeah. So,
Madam Mayor, can I
Yeah, Councilmember
offer a couple or commentary to what Councilmember Larson just said? So just to piggyback off of the comments with the RAP tax and the quick win. When I've been in the meetings and discussions with the RAP tax, that absolutely was, a lot of it was just, we approved this RAP tax a couple of years ago, and we need kind of like a quick win just to show that your RAP tax is going towards something, what could be something that benefits the community and has a voice, a group of people that want it. And where could we put it, which is why like Shoestring Park was brought up as one of the options, because most people don't even know what Shoestring is, where it is, and what it is. And so it was just, again, looking at some of these kind of like off parks that we have and saying like, would this be a good use for this specific type of area that could get equipment and, check all these boxes. So and I just add that commentary to everyone's minds.
yeah, no, thank you, Councilmember. I was surprised how many people gave me reasons why Shoestring would be bad too, so it was so fascinating because I went into that meeting thinking, oh, we got good feedback from staff on that location and everything. Anyway, it's surprising how for complex topics like this, how you can go down different paths of thinking, right? Hence the helpful method of having a work session. So if there isn't any other further discussion on that, I think I have a strong sense of where you stand on why it would be helpful to have a work session. So that's the question before us, is should we send this topic to a work session? And so, do you have further comments? Okay. So we can send that to a vote, and it's just a voice vote on this one. So all in favor of sending this topic or postponing for a work session, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Nay? Okay, that passes unanimously. We will send that to a work session and we will see what we can figure out with regard to our park funds too, so that we can give you some numbers and some options that way. It's very possible that if we want to get stuff done, because to Councilmember Danson's point, that is one of the big things is there's been a gap in time, a good 5-year gap since we've done like a good sized park project. Meadows Park, the pickleball courts was the last one. People are antsy to see some progress there. If we did end up wanting to bond, it's possible that we would have to use like our entire RAP tax amount to go towards something like that. But there's a potential for creating a long-term situation where the public wouldn't pay out of their pockets anymore in the property taxes, but they could see a big upfront benefit. So we've got options. We will take that to a work session as soon as we can. We have a lot on our plates, but I'll get that on the agenda as soon as we can. All right, moving on to our training. We have Trevor here to teach us how property tax works, but that might sound quaint, but this is the topic that I have learned so many elected officials have no clue how property taxes work. And we do not want you to be among them. So the floor is yours, City Manager Trevor Kinlan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's muted, but it's dying. Alrighty. Yeah, I thought we would make this as boring as possible, and so we created a children's story with my help of AI. But all of the information is accurate. I really enjoyed making it. So I'll go ahead and get started. So this is Mr. Cocoon and the Great Tree Decision in front of us. In the center of the valley stood a great tree, so wide its branches stretched open like arms. and so strong that generations of woodland creatures had built their nests and hollows in its bark. From the highest twig nest to the coziest knothole near the roots, the tree was more than wood and leaves. It was home. Inside, a tidy little office tucked beneath a curl of bark worked Mr. Cocoon, the tree manager. He, a thoughtful green caterpillar with careful eyes and patient ways, he believed good plans were built slowly with listening, steady work, and neat rows of notes written down the page. He did not rush, he did not boast, but he cared deeply that the great tree would remain sturdy and safe. I feel like we need like a, oh, you click on, but. Okay. You don't have to stop to share, you just, little sure not to. Each morning, Mr. Cocoon gathered his friends, Chief Amber, the barreled owl, Captain Birch, the woodpecker, Ranger Moss, the gray squirrel, and the warden Bristle, the raccoon. Together, they inspected the branches and circled the trunk, looking for cracked limbs, dim lantern fungi, loose bark, and roots strained by storm and season. They agreed on one simple truth: if the tree was to protect its creatures, someone had to protect the tree. When autumn brushed the canopy gold and cool winds whispered through the leaves, Mr. Cocoon called everyone together to prepare the annual plan. He spread his papers across the smooth stone table and explained what must be repaired, reinforced, or replaced before winter arrived. Keeping a great tree healthy required more than hope. Some of the leaves they gathered came from small monthly contributions for water flowing through the roots. Some came from new neighbors who carved fresh hollows and helped brace to help brace nearby branches, but the most steady support came from the homes themselves, from every nest and hollow where creatures chose to live. Before the numbers were chosen, Assessor Hawkeye the hawk circled high above the canopy. He studied each branch, home, and hollow nook. I do not decide what anyone contributes, he reminded them gently. I only measure what is there. He estimated what each home might be worth if offered somewhere else in the wide forest beyond the valley. When he finished, he delivered the total value to Clerk Willow, the nuthatch. She tapped thoughtfully against the bark. If we know how many leaves are needed to care for the tree, she explained, and we know the total value of the homes, then one number divided by the other reveals the rate. It was simple forest math, though it often surprised those who'd never seen it before. Mr. Cocoon reviewed the figures carefully. If the value, yep, there it is. Planning was his responsibility, but the choosing belongs elsewhere. For in the great tree, the final decision rested with the elected mayor and the 5 members of the council of the canopy. Mayor Mabel, the great horned owl, listened more than she spoke, winging each word as though it rested on a branch in the wind. Beside her sat the council: Thorn, the bold blue jay; Juniper, the careful flying squirrel; Fern, the analytical woodpecker; Cedar, the steady raccoon; and Bramble, the watchful chipmunk. They had been chosen to represent every nest and hollow in the tree. Clerk Willow reminded them of the forest rules. If the council did not vote to collect more property leaves than the year before, the total gathered would remain the same. Even if home values rose high into the canopy, the rate would adjust downward, so the total stayed level. If the values fell in a harsh season, the rate would rise to steady the tree once more. One year, most ranch homes increased sharply, yet a small hollow near the trunk rose only a little. Though its value was higher than before, its share was smaller than expected. Another year, values dipped across the tree, but one sturdy limb held firm and found its portion slightly larger instead. It is not only whether your home rises or falls, Fern explained, tracing the numbers on soft bark. It's how your change compares to the whole tree. They call it a shift. And shifts made sense only when one stepped back and saw the entire canopy. Then came a winter storm. A heavy limb cracked, snow bent the branches. The owl watched The Owl Watch worked long hours. Captain Birch's crews patched bark deep into the cold night. Mr. Cocoon stood before the council, maintaining the tree as possible with last year's leaves, he said quietly. But strengthening it will require more. The chamber grew still. Mayor Maple folded her wings. If we wish to collect more than the year before, she said, we must follow the law, the truth and taxation law. That meant a notice to every home, a public hearing, a chance for any creature to stand and speak, no hidden decisions in shadowed hollows. So notices were delivered from roof to treetop. From root to treetop, a bright blue jay carried the announcement across the canopy, calling out the time and place, and listen they did. Some creatures spoke in support of safer branches and stronger roots. Others worried about winter stores and asked careful questions. Every voice was heard, but the vote was taken. When the decision was finally made in the open, beneath lantern fungi glowing softly, the great tree did not tremble. It did not groan, it simply stood, supported by plans, by laws, by shared responsibility. Later that evening, as Mr. Cocoon walked along the lantern-lit path and watched sap flow steadily beneath the bark, a young squirrel asked her mother, who decides what we give to the tree? Her mother smiled. Manager plans, she said softly, but the elected council chooses, and they must do it in the open. The squirrel looked up at the wide branches above her. Nothing about the tree was automatic, nothing mysterious. It was measured, discussed, decided together year after year. The end.
Were you trying to one up Corey because he quoted MC Hammer last time?
Yep. It was this or musical version, and so I was very to my voice. Other than my sweet reading style. I hope that you can appreciate some of the facts in there. So with property tax, that is our one lever of control. As a city, we have one mechanism that we get full access to for our general plan or our general fund. And that is the property tax. And we don't take that lightly. We recognize that it comes from every person from our tree that we have to pull from. And those resources are tight everywhere, not only with the city, but with our residents as well. And so we take great care as we consider that. However, there's a lot of things that go into running the operations that we have and to provide the services that we have and to add services like parks and recreation opportunities, and even to increase our level of service for our public safety, or our public parks, or our public works in certain areas. Main takeaways I hope that you understand with that is that we don't set a rate as a city. We ask for an amount that we would like to collect. And so when we look at that, we've had a habit in the past of looking at as percent increases. That's a very subjective number because that changes year over year based on the valuations that we get and on the new growth. And so we're going to try our very hardest to just focus on how much do we need. What is that dollar amount that we need, and not the percentage increase or things like that. Yes, it will eventually equate to a percent. But the rate itself isn't a apples to apples rate percentage comparison as well. Because as home values rise, like I said in the story, that rate will decrease because now we're still recouping the same amount of money from the total population. But then it's also subjective for each individual household, which is very confusing. Sales tax is the opposite, right? We set a rate for sales tax and it is a variable amount that comes into us. And so there are some who have a philosophy that we should treat our property tax similar to a sales tax, that as home values go up, we should recoup the excess valuation of that home into our stores. And there are some that says we will only do that absolutely necessary, but we're not going to automatically increase that to recoup based on the valuation. And so that's a very philosophical thing that the council gets to decide. I can give you my opinion year over year, but generally we look, when Corey and I do the budget initially, we look at just what the need is present on what the projections we have at that time. We're not looking at a philosophy of like, oh, we're just gonna automatically dump the excess valuation in and assume that we're going to have that trip taxation. Truth in taxation requires that any alteration other than new growth requires that decision to be made by the council and to be published as a public notice. And then working with the county to get all the assessments and evaluations. It's a very complex process that takes months and months and a lot of people to contribute with. And it's terribly slow because there's a lot of people. And so getting those exact rates and everything is a little difficult. That's why we need to focus just on that valuation of what do we need from property tax to be sustainable. And then there's always a discussion of if we don't want to raise property tax, where are we going to supplement or cut if there are cuts available. So is there any general questions about property tax that you're bringing? No, I'm sure I've answered it all in the story.
Questions from the council? Councilmember Danson?
Here, that's what, so pretty much I enjoyed the story. Very good. This was, just wanted to kind of find out, because I know that the state did this some time ago, and that's what they had the, audit, I forgot what they call it, but the auditor's office did it, that they looked and saw that the state froze the certified rate for like education. And that's what it was for a 5-year thing. Is that something that cities could actually do as well? Or is that kind of a, no, we leave it up to the county to figure out our certified rate and that's it?
So the county will get to say a certified rate is disingenuous to say that the county is the only one that gives a certified rate. So when we select a rate and we certify that is now the certified rate. So that's the county's projected certified rate if we were to maintain the same recoupment of sales of property tax. Now we can't put into place to bind future councils on a decision, and property tax is one of those. So we can't make it a 5-year decision for a future council. That's just not how that works. So we need a truth in taxation every year to reassess that. But as a matter of policy or practice, the council could choose to maintain a rate as a general policy, and then as we formulate a budget, we can formulate what that recoupment would be. So that would be that philosophy of like, okay, we're going to capture the growth, not the growth, that's the new growth. The assessed value increase year over year by maintaining the same rate. But that has to be individually every year that we do that. There's some element that is good to do that because you're not overextending a rate and going beyond that, and it can be because of valuations. If it's a steady increase, it could keep up with that inflation number. But in years like 2020, 2021, where the valuations increased drastically, and if you chose to maintain the rate, then it wouldn't necessarily, it would still be with inflationary costs, but it'd be kind of a little bit disingenuous because not all of the costs were inflated at that time. Most were. But yeah, I hope that answers.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure that for people in the audience to know that's that if they freeze the certified rate, that's kind of like what everybody thinks with property tax. Oh, my home value goes up, you get more money. That's what a certified rate. Utah doesn't do that. Utah does the opposite. It just says, how much do you need?
Mm-hmm.
We'll then figure a rate out afterwards.
Yeah.
And I would oppose a policy like that, just so you know, like hardcore opposition. So, but yes, good to talk about it theoretically. Other questions from the council? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you. Can you go back to the picture that has year 1 and year 2?
Oh, sure. That's not an actual graph, but.
I know. That's the page where I got a little bit lost.
I can't go to Austin. There we go.
You got lost trying to figure out which councilman.
I was, and then he wasn't in the next picture. So.
It was a little sporadic. I chose to include it in the newest picture. Yes.
Just that page again, read that page one more time.
Sure. Do you want me to read it verbatim or just explain it? Okay. So basically, when we do the assessed values for the entire city, the county looks at the assessed values for the whole county and then they give them for the city. But across the city, there are portions that will increase in value disproportionate to other portions of the city. So there may be portions on the east side of Clinton whose valuations don't increase as fast as portions on the west side of Clinton, where there's new growth and development around those. And so home values may increase on that side where they may stagnate or maybe even decrease on the east side. And so if you have a year where housing prices boom and increase a lot, but this section of the city did not increase, but our total overall valuation did increase, what happens is instead of spreading that evenly across the city, it's just based on that valuation. So if my valuation increased $200,000 one year, but the neighbor a mile up the road, their valuation only increased $50,000, then I'm going to see a larger increase on my property tax, even if the city maintained the same allotment from the property tax. Does that make sense? And the opposite is true. If all values decrease, but my value actually stayed the same or it actually increased on this side, then it would be similar where there would be some proportionate share in what the total thing is. So we're looking at what is the total amount that we want to receive, then they divide that by the valuation for each of the properties to get that. And then you add in commercial properties, which is a whole nother ball game, right? And so because commercial values, we get 100%, whereas residential, we only get 45%.
So the county is predicting the market.
They look at the assessed value for the market currently, so they will, but it's always a year behind, so they will start assessing in January 1, and they typically will finish by June 12th sometimes, but June 1 is their target date, and that's when everything is due. And so we won't know those assessed values if everything happened the previous year until that time.
Let me ask another question. So the way the puzzle fits together is our office in the city has to figure out the number that we need for our budget and how much it's offset by sales tax. And so that's where the guessing game happens, where if our sales tax revenue decreases, then we need more money to come in from property tax.
Yes, the one that we know for sure is property tax. It is near like 97, 95% recoupment. There's a chunk that maybe we don't get, but we get majority of that vast majority of that. And so that is the one constant. All of the other ones are good educated guesses, and we can look at trend lines and we can look at projected economic status, but that's why when you're looking at operationally, a general good practice is to tie your fixed costs with your fixed earnings, right? And so if you can, our fixed costs are typically our operations through personnel. If you can cover that with your fixed earnings and then use your variable earnings to fund projects, capital investments, that is ideal. Now, we're not there. We're funding about 35 to 40% of our fixed operational costs and then supplementing the rest with sales tax or other fees that we recoup.
Although there's a certain amount of sales tax that could be considered fixed, because as long as we have these businesses here were going to get some sales tax revenue, but then there's a certain percentage that would be variable. I don't know how we figure out what that is, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's all just kind of economic, right? But if we have a big crash, then that number will deteriorate quickly. Right?
That's
So there's going to be a chunk that like, say we get 5.4 million this last year, what was our number? We can assume that we would at least get 3 million of that, right? And so. Well, 5.
Sorry, you said 3.5, right?
Well, no, I'm saying just estimating, you could just assume, even if we had a large scale crash, we could probably assume that we'll still recoup about 2/3 of it, right? 60% of that.
I see you're saying the 2/3.
And so that's how you can kind of judge that. And so that's where it's ideally, if we're in a perfect world in a financial person's paradise, our property tax would cover all of our operations and our sales tax would just be used for icing on the cake. That's not feasible. That's a lot of burden. But there are states that do that, where their property tax is exorbitant for their areas compared to ours. If you look nationally, our property tax percentage for what we charge is really low compared to others. So.
Do you mind if you already said some of this, but I guess I kind of want to say it in my own words too, based on my experience talking to the public. So I've had so many people over the years say to me that the city's just bringing in more and more money because their home's value keeps going up, right? So that's what Trevor's here to try to clarify, is that we actually don't just keep bringing in more and more money. But people think that. They think my home value went up, so that means Clinton City got more money. So why are they so bad with their money that they can't figure out a way to fund all these things, right? And so that's obviously fundamentally based on a flawed understanding. And really what's happening is, you know, you have $4 million that we're bringing in for property tax, and we have to just keep bringing that same amount in year after year unless we actually raise the tax. Like, that's the only way that you get more property tax. It's not through home values going up. The only other way is just by new houses moving in. So new growth, if you have new homes that are built, then you get to add that money onto your property tax, but that's it. And so many people say, but we're building so many houses here in Clinton, so many new businesses, surely you have enough money. But you'd be surprised how much money we're bringing in year to year in that new growth amount. This past budget year that we just brought in money from was the highest ever in the history of Clinton at $100,000. That's the most we'd ever brought in a single year in new growth. And prior to that, it was like $50,000, $70,000, $31,000 was one of the years in the past, but 68,000. Like, it's, you know, fluctuates, but it's not some large amount of money, and that's what we're bringing in from that new growth. Otherwise, we just get that 4 million. And so what was cool for me is when I went back and looked at my own taxes, I did this several years ago, and found all of my tax papers from the previous years and looked at the amounts that I was paying. And you guys can all do this too if you go back and look at your own tax records. And I could see, like, during a course of several years in a row where Clinton did not have any tax increase that was submitted by its city council, my taxes stayed within $20 of the same number, just year after year after year, regardless of how crazy my home's value went. And so that's really where you see the proof of it is in your own tax bill. If you look at the Clinton City line, if you're only looking at your whole tax bill, it's going to be growing year after year after year, because there's always at least one of those 15 different taxing entities on there that's choosing to increase their tax rate or their tax amount that they need to bring in. And so, you know, whether it's the Mosquito Abatement District or Davis County or Weber Basin or whatever, you name it, it's something that's doing an increase that year. But Clinton City's line is what we have control over. And so if we're not doing an actual official tax increase through the truth in taxation process, then your bill is not going to fluctuate by any more than $20. And it's probably, I'm just throwing that out there, I don't know the exact number, but $10, $4, whatever they were on my own bill that I saw. And the only reason for those fluctuations that's where the market value of your home comes in. It's showing what amount of that 4 million you are gonna pay. Clinton City's not bringing in any extra money from you. But you might pay $10 more or $4 less or $14 more or $8 less over the years. Just because your portion of the whole is altering based on the market value of your home. And so in 2022, we could go back and look at the business property tax records and compare them to residential. And you'll see that in 2022, every one of us, our taxes went up who live here. Our taxes went up just a little bit, even though Clinton City did not do a tax increase in 2022. But I paid like $12 more. And all the businesses were paying a little bit less because in 2022, the market values for residential properties increased at a higher rate than for commercial properties. But Clinton City still brought in the same amount, didn't get any more from any of us. So
I think one fun fact to have, actually, you asked a question and then I want to.
yeah.
Well, I wasn't even gonna ask the question. I was just gonna say, it also helps to think if your taxes go up, you can know that somebody else in the city's taxes have gone down.
Exactly.
So in a year where you go down, realize that someone else went up in the city
Yeah.
because the pie stays the same.
You got it.
That's the-
And really quick before Trevor.
Cover that.
I'll say this what, I think that's very nice because this what, when I look at my taxes, it's always going up on the home value. And so yours is going down, but mine keeps going up. So, there is that too. But that's what I was trying to make the point too, is like, I had that idea in my head that there's like those three numbers. There's the home value, there's the rate, and then there's the amount. And that's what it's like, the city is just controlling the amount, and that's what we're requesting. The rate is determined based upon that afterwards. And it's not that the rate is solid, it is actually the home value that happens and the amount that we need, and then the rate's decided after that.
Yeah. I think one thing that we, Corey and I have talked a little bit about, and talked to some of you about this, but one thing that we know that our residents struggle with when it comes to property tax is where does that money go? Because right now it goes to the general fund, right? And the general fund funds a myriad of operations within the city. It funds our administration, our streets, it funds our public works administration, it funds our planning and development, police, fire, parks and recreation. That's where that general fund goes. So it's kind of a myriad of places. If you notice with the county has different breakdowns of where that funding goes, right? So it has, here's the sheriff's portion, here's dispatch 911, here's other portions that were in that where it breaks down that health and safety, library, those type of things. The state does afford cities the ability to do that. And so we can look at, I always hesitate on a general fund expense to pinpoint, well, this is the only reason why we're raising property taxes because of this one thing. It could be true, but it could also be true that because of these 5 other things, right? And so it's hard to pinpoint that. So it could be something that the council we can do where we can segment our property tax out a little bit and say, we're gonna pull a property tax that's just for our police department, and we're gonna pull a property tax that's just for our fire department, and then a property tax for administration or general fund, right? And then that will direct those funds a little bit. And then if there's impacts that we want to associate to our police department and fire department, specifically like new apparatus we have to buy or new personnel that we get, we can attribute it to those tax revenue sources, and then they're tied to a specific stream of expenditure versus going to the main funding. And so therefore it can we can have a little bit more control and a little bit more transparency of where those funds can go. There's some downsides of that. It doesn't lock it into that specific purpose, right? But that's not necessarily a bad thing unless we're totally completely funding one entire department out of property tax and it's not supplementing from others. But if we were to do that, we'd still have some supplemental from the general fund entirely, but it would allow us to kind of start building those funds to say, well, we know that there's impact for police or fire. Not saying that that's the 100% best practice, but it is an option as we'll talk in our budget discussions. That's one thing that Corey and I are gonna look into to see if that will be beneficial for us to start doing.
Yeah, and it's helpful for the public to understand that because we're bringing in $4 million in property tax revenue, that's actually literally not even enough money to cover the police department. So. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think people think we're bringing in like $30 million.
That's our goal.
Yeah. So, okay, any final questions for Trevor on how property tax works? All right, seeing none, then we can move to our consent items. Thank you, Trevor. And who were you? Mr. Cocoon. Thank you, Mr. Cocoon. All right. All right, for our consent items, let's just walk through these real quick and see if anybody has any commentary on those or questions. Really just questions is all. Oh, yes.
Councilmember Christensen just left. Do we
Oh.
take a break or?
Do you want to? We can do that. It's 9:16. We're getting close to the end here. If somebody wants to take a break,
What's the procedure?
yeah, then you would just make a motion to take a break. Move to recess for whatever amount of time that you want.
That's what, can I make a motion to move to recess for 15 minutes?
15 is probably a little long. Can I ask you to revise the 10?
10 minutes.
Yeah, yes. Okay, I have a motion on the table to recess for 10 minutes. Is there a second? Nobody wants to second it. Your motion's gonna die on this table.
It's gonna die.
Or not on the table, your motion's gonna die. Yeah. No second, then you're dead in the water. Okay, so, consent items, we have the resolution CDBG grant application for 2026. Are there any questions on that? That one's just our ADA ramps, curb ramps. This is an ongoing grant that we just keep getting, which is fantastic. It's federal grant to update our curb ramps that lead onto the sidewalks to make them ADA compliant. Okay. All right, approval of the minutes. Do we have any commentary or change, or not commentary? Do we have any changes that need to happen with these minutes? Okay, any questions about the accounts payable? Oh, no accounts payable for this one. Okay, so just the two items on the consent list. And so do I have a motion on that?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
make a motion to approve the consent items.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Preston.
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember Arby. This motion is debatable. It has a resolution as part of it, so we will need to end up doing a roll call vote on that. Well, let me start with Councilmember Larson. You made the motion, you have the floor.
I think we had our chance to discuss for the motion, so.
Feeling good. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, then we'll take a roll call vote on these consent items, starting with Councilmember Christensen.
I'm sorry, I just need to clarify where I needed to step out for a moment and I didn't hear the discussion. Should I abstain from this vote?
No, you should not, and there was no discussion, no,
Okay.
they were just straightforward.
No, everything's good?
Yeah.
Okay, then yes.
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 Perfect, that motion passes and the consent items are approved. All right, let's move to our other business. We have our council reports. Councilmember Christensen, anything from you?
Yes, thank you. The Youth City Council is going to a leadership conference at Utah State the second week of March. And there's a banquet on the 13th. I think it's great that we've got a Youth City Council and we have opportunities for the youth. I have been wanting to explore how to get to know the youth council, better personally, and Councilmember Danson and I need to talk about that because they don't really have formal meetings. They get together at activities. And so we'll probably have to create something for us to be able to get to know them better if we want to do it more formally. Also, I did hear from one of the advisors, Joanne Young, or is it Joan? Joan Young, that She is going to continue through the leadership conference. But after the conference, the council will be led by Angie Daly and Marissa Peterson. And that's what I have about the youth council. And then from the planning commission, I appreciate our community development director, Peter Matson, for sending me some information on what's happening with the planning commission. They're continuing discussions about ADUs, as we've been talking about them as well. And then there is a project under review right now for a multi-tenant retail building on the southwest corner of 1800 and 2000 West. And then Greenfield subdivision is in stages of additional phases being approved. So that's what's going on with the planning commission right now.
Very good, thank you. And it's possible that you could talk to the youth council advisors about holding like a getting to know you meeting or something.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to talk to Councilman Hanson about, so we can work on that together.
Great, very good. Thank you so much for that update. All right, Councilmember Larson,
No updates.
Councilmember Arby,
Nope, nothing.
Councilmember Dennison.
That's what, nothing to actually report, but I will be meeting with the communities that care this Thursday, and that's as well as Wednesday. But that's what we'll be actually going over the survey data that I would like to present here, or at least invite them to present here at the end of next month.
Perfect.
So
Very good. Yes, I've got that on the agenda, so we're in good shape there. Okay, Councilmember Searle.
Nothing from me tonight.
Perfect, get well soon. All right, then, our city manager.
Just real quick with the budget coming up, we are going to be having, budget workshops in April. And an opportunity for public outreach for that, do a budget kind of open house. We're gonna workshop the title that's more exciting than budget open house, but, with that, Courtney High School is to have a good tentative budget available in March. And we're gonna be sending that out. I would welcome anytime that you would want to come. We'll send that out to you. If you want to schedule time to sit down with Courtney and I to understand any portions of the budget a little bit better, outside of the meeting, that's kind of a large thing to digest. We can set up times if you want to meet with us and the mayor and kind of get some overview of how things were done in the past and historics. It's just a complicated thing, and so we want to give you time to digest. Keep in mind it is a tentative budget. Our anticipation is that budget will be locked as the draft budget after our April meeting to any major revisions unless it's approved by the council. We're required by May to turn the tentative budget over to the council. And that is your tentative budget to work on at that point. We want to kind of kick that off after our budget review in April. And so a lot of moving pieces, we've got a lot of things going on, but I know if you want to set up, we're open for in person, we can do digital, we can do piece by piece. You can ask for requests and we can create an individual podcast for you, whatever you need us to do. We're helpful. We want to help you understand all of those numbers and kind of what goes into them, because it takes us months to put together, and then I don't want to give it to you and say figure it out in a few days. And congratulations.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Richards.
I would like a storybook called Mr. Cocoon Transforms the Budget into a Beautiful Butterfly.
You got it.
It'll be 20 hours long.
Spoiler. It ends with a property tax increase.
No problem. Choose your own adventure. Again.
That's right. I like that. That's better. Okay. So then for me, I just wanted to walk through just some dates. So this Saturday, we have our little retreat thing where we're gonna do some team building and strategy session, vision building. That's at 9 a.m. in the police training room, so that's the bottom floor of the police station if you want to park over on that west side. And then, in March, we have on the 24th, instead of doing a full regular meeting, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to have our city council meeting at 6, so we're gonna swap. And do 6 p.m. We're gonna keep that one fairly short. That one's the one that Councilmember Dowson was talking about, having communities that care come to do the SHARP survey and give us results of how our youth are faring with regard to substance use and mental health. And then the youth council is coming to that meeting. So they're also gonna report to us on what they learned up at their Utah State conference. And so then they get to participate, and we're gonna do a little public comment period and let them give some feedback on the data about the youth in their community. And so it's kind of a little youth thing at 6 p.m., but it's a regular city council, well, special city council meeting since we're swapping the time. And then at 7 p.m. Instead, we're gonna do a work session combined with the planning commission about the general plan use, land use map. Okay, so that's what we've got on tap for March. And then April 10th meeting will be that, is it 14th, not 10th, April 14th meeting is the long budget session where we're gonna have to start at 5 p.m. and go department by department through that. And so we'll have to have dinner for that one. Or someone will have to give us dinner. And then April 30th is the budget session. Did you just say that, the public? So, all right, so I just wanted everyone to be on the same page with those. Now, final question. So this is just my question for you to get your feedback. Sometimes our work sessions are too short for me because they're only like 45 minutes. I'm wondering how you would feel about either starting them at 5:30 instead of 6, or about like doing a different time frame, even once a month or something. I don't know what your schedules are like, but that feels a little more doable to me to either start them all at 5:30 or maybe just do like an early start, you know, on the first one of every month or something. Like it even earlier, you know, and just have like a long one once a month, not super long, not like Orem. I ran into a fellow council member from Orem and she said that they start at 3 p.m. every single time. So anyway, and Clearfield, they're doing it once a week now. Like, I think people are realizing there's a lot of work to do, and so sometimes I feel stressed, but I'm interested in your feedback on what you can tolerate, because if you can't, then we have to just do 6, then we'll just make it happen and we'll do what needs to be done. But what do you think?
I can make a comment on it.
Alternate ways that you would like us to communicate information to the council prior, we could look at that as well, right? If you can give us more comprehensive reviews or whatever you would need, that could be an option as well.
Or if you think that I could just tell you in advance, this needs to be a long work session and we just once in a while have a long one, like for example, that parks topic, there's no way we can handle that in the 45 minutes that we have in the work session. And so that's why I swapped on the 24th, the general plan. We can't handle the land use map in 45 minutes, right? We have to have a longer period of time. So do I either do it for like bigger topics and just say, hey, we're gonna tell you in advance that one needs to be a big one, and then we switch the time or something, or start earlier? Is there any way you can ever start earlier?
You could as well technically continue in the work session, vote to continue in the work session past the 7 o'clock. As long as we're not starting the policy session early, we can go a little bit later than the start time, as long as we probably make an official motion to do that.
That gives me anxiety.
I know, I'm just giving you all the answer.
No, Madam Mayor, but
Yeah.
if the work session, I like where we're at right now. And is it possible though that like if the parks one exceeds that 45 minutes or whatever, we can just move it to the next work session?
Yes, that's all possible, but then there are a million things to talk about, and so then that means that I can't keep adding stuff to the next one, right? Does that make sense? So all it does is prolong the time that it takes for us to talk about things. That's my only thing. And if you want that, and if you're fine, I will continue doing the best I can, and I'll make it happen however we can. And I can always send emails and get feedback out, you know, individually one-on-one from you about things so that But they're gonna come sometimes at least, like the parks one where, yeah, we either have to go across multiple work sessions, which means then we don't put other topics on those work sessions. Or we have to just bite the bullet and have every now and then have a longer one.
Like bullet every now and then.
Okay. And member Fishes.
I was going to say, I think we can have a higher expectation of ourselves that we're better prepared as we come to some of these meetings. Because it does feel like sometimes there's a little bit, more explanation than like might be required before we actually start the discussion.
And so you're saying just be ready to start, expect that everybody's read all the materials and just get going on it.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, I know that we want to err on the side of over communication and make sure that people don't have questions, but I do think sometimes we could tighten up some of the prefaces.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Councilmember Larson, you have a thought?
I wondered if those exceptional circumstances, we might be able to meet in an off week on a Tuesday night. A Tuesday night is good for people, you know, we could have a work session and an in-between week when needed.
Yeah.
You know, for
If
you
it's
guys that might take that one, but and I agree with what Councilmember Christensen said. Also, I think part of this is that most of us are new and we feel like we need to participate. And I think we'll get better at prioritizing, you know, understand where you stand on an issue, make sure those points are shared, but there's two sides to every issue. And if we take a chance for everybody to talk about every side of every issue, it's just gonna take us. So but I think we'll learn that as we go.
That's true, yeah, some of it is like learning how people's personalities are and where they kind of already stand on things too, yeah. And like you said, me learning like, how much do I need to explain here, what do you already come into the table understanding, right, yeah. Yeah. Councilor Francis.
And that's what I'm like, yeah, with my schedule, it's pretty much, 6 o'clock is
Yeah.
the earliest I can do, but yeah, I like what Councilmember Larson said, like, if we need to discuss things, I mean, we could do something on those other Tuesdays if we need to, and just meet at 6 and then say, yep, we'll go to 9, 9:30, 10, whatever is needed for those work sessions that are on and off week.
And I would just do that rarely, like if I'm like, look, I can't hit this, I'm gonna take out every work session for the next 2 months if we do it like this, right? Yeah, and that's what I mean, I can foresee that happening, and so. Okay, we can do that. Thank you for the feedback. All right, action item review, we did have a little bit on that we had put a reminder for Lisa to update us on our action items that we've put for February 24th, Lisa.
Okay, so we had talked about the potential for a quarterly review of our budgets. And then a historical analysis of previous financial projections and the actuals. And a method for making the public more aware of some of the hot points of the results of the audit.
Okay, yeah, so does staff have any feedback for us on if they've thought of any answers? Do you wanna come up, Corey, and tell us then? Just a little update.
Or
on-
does he, he's been waiting for this for the last 2 weeks. I sat in the back, so I wouldn't have to come up.
Corey Christensen, Finance Director.
Madam Mayor, may it please the council. So had a little communication with her city manager and Madam Mayor about those three. One being the historical analysis. We're hoping to incorporate that into our budget conversations. So you'll have the actuals of the past couple of years so that we can see what those were for any given department and line items. So we're hoping as we have that conversation and the budget that we put out, we'll have that information for you to see. Happen with the current. Remind me what the first one was.
Potential for a quarterly review.
Yeah, so what we're hoping to do is even maybe more than quarterly, just to give you a summarized, here's our budget to actuals for that we would then provide to post in the publication. So that's something that we have an easy summary to provide. And then we can start with that, see if that answers questions if we need a little more than that. And then as far as hot points on the audit, options are we can do a little write-up. I guess it's more of where's the preference that you would have us do it. You just want us to post it on, say, like the finance department page or the treasury department page on the website. It's more where would you prefer that be viewed by the public, or would it just be a brief write-up that we would put in, say, in a council meeting? So any thoughts, comments on those?
Councilmember Lex.
Yeah, I think what I remember about the conversation, or at least what was in my mind, is that we at least call attention to it, like on social media. Even if that's just a tease with a link to something on the city webpage. But I think just letting the public know that that's part of the cadence, that we've had an audit, and overall, results were good, whatever, we found positive, blah, blah, blah. For more information about, our action items as a result of the audit, click here, and then it would go, and then we would just list, where did we have some takeaways from it? What were the 3 high points, 3 low points, but opportunities, and, kind of just real high level, what are our next steps?
Yeah, I think that's an easy ask. If we kind of identified some of those points already, then we can just do a brief write-up and post them, whatever the policy is for sharing links on social media to do that. So.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you. Can that go in the newsletter? Would that be an add-on to the newsletter if you were doing some kind of a?
I think we could do just kind of a share link, like a small portion if you want to do the results with this link.
They are
QR code.
on the website.
Yeah, Councilmember Benson.
And that's what, as far as the question of where to put it on the website, like the write-up portions, and that's what I was just thinking, that that would be some type of easy to find landing page on there. So I'm not sure if anybody goes to the treasury one, but finance seems to be the one that I try to look into. So
Madam Mayor, wherever the duck is on the page, put it right there.
Let's place the banner. There.
Solve that one.
Just number that.
Well, now it can be this. Have a rotating back. This is a rotating back. Bring the back, let's send the pictures of the duck. Rotate it.
Perfect. Is that helpful?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. All right, well, is there anything else from the council? If not, then the next item on our list is adjournment, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I was on the 14th, it's the budget workshop where we